Hey guys, DadTV here, welcome on in. Today we're going to have a look at some G-poses and basically how I do it, because as you can see on screen right now, I think I do a pretty good job honestly. Some of them look quite nice, don't you think? And quite a lot of people on Twitter have asked how I do it, so I thought I'd go for a little rundown. I mean, why not, hey? So, let's switch over to the game and take a look, shall we? We'll have a little run through. So, we're in game. Elixir's in my little fashion boutique, as it were. I'm going to do it once we finish the house. I will be doing a full-on walkthrough, but it's not ready yet. But basically, I want to show, as I say, I want to show what I do for G-pose, because it's quite important, and there's a few different steps. The first step really is to find a good location. Once you've got, actually the first step is probably to think of a theme that you want. I tend to do a lot of more demonic sort of shots, because if I go here, you can see a lot of my stuff is quite, there you go, a lot of my glams are kind of more evilly sort of dark in tone, so I tend to go for a more demonic one. My warrior, for example, apparently I changed my glamour plate. Way to make myself look a bit like an idiot, but hey, whatever. My warrior, when it's in this, with the right weapon, I'm really screwing this up, but hey. So let's close this. And then, make sure you've got the right glamour plate and the right weapon equipped for what you want, if you have multiple glamour plates anyway. If you don't have multiple glamour plates, you don't have to worry with any of the faff that I just did. But anyway, so I like to do quite a lot of demonic ones, so you need to have a theme. So it could be demonic, it could be romantic, it could be action based, and then you want to sort of find a location that's good for it. That involves sometimes quite a bit of scouting around to figure out. I myself tend to just have a think, where did I like recently? What have I seen recently that was interesting to me? However, what I've done recently is Endwalker, and I don't want to show any spoilers, so I'm having to think of something else instead. And I think maybe... Churning Mist can sometimes have some cool stuff in it, so we'll go there. So once you've thought of a general place to go, then you need to think of an actual location in there. So, up on your mount, flying is very much recommended for this. Now, me personally, I think I'm going to go, if I remember correctly, I probably should have teleported up here, because up here and around here is a really good place for sort of almost creepy shots, which is I think what I'm probably going to try and do. So I will fly over there now, and I will see you guys in a minute, because I'm going to cut it here. So the next thing you want to do, once you're actually in the location, is, as you can see, I've got there, is find the right backdrop. Now this location has a lot of kind of varying shapes and colours and things, but I quite like basically that bit there where you've got the two different tones. This is my personal style, I like to have two tones of things if I can. So the next thing you want to do is work out the pose. So everyone knows you can do emotes like /pose, and then you can G-pose it. In fact, if I were to get my Diablos wings out, and then /pose, it does look kind of cool. And I've done that one quite a lot, because, to be honest, I like having the wings out, and it really, when you have them out, it kind of limits, because they're a fashion accessory, it limits what you can actually do anyway. But if you didn't want to have a fashion accessory, and you want to do something a bit more different, I could, for example, do the helicopter attack, as I call it, and then when I go to G-pose, she will continually repeat it. So then you can do an action shot like that. Another good example, one that I tend to do a lot, which I might actually do now anyway, just because I think it looks nice and can show things off a bit. So if I'm in my white mage, if I then do a size, the animation of a size is really cool. If I go into G-pose now, you'll notice she'll just keep repeating that over and over again. So that then means you can kind of tweak how you want to show it. Now, if I bring the Gpose settings on screen, maybe make them a little bigger for you, Let's go 160%. One of the options here is toggle battle effects on and off. So with them on, you can see it like that. If I turn them off, you now just get the animation of the actual attack, just the actual character animation. Which means you can then, for example, find a really nice part to pause it on. So if I were to pause it right there, that is a really cool stance. And that gives you a much broader option of different things you can do and different ways you can kind of pose your character and I guess take different shots, because it kind of gets boring seeing the same like flick of the hair and things like that everyone sees on the internet, if I'm honest. So actually using attacks and character skills and things like that gives you a much wider variety of options that you can do. I'll show a couple more after I've done this. So once you've done that, the next thing to do, again, find the right angle, the right backdrop. So I quite like that as a backdrop, personally. But I like Elixir to be the focal point. So you can obviously zoom in and out using this. Now interestingly enough, what I've seen a lot of people do is they will zoom in and out with camera position, but then leave it at that. You can see I've zoomed to 200%, but I can actually zoom in more, because what I haven't done is I haven't zoomed in with the camera on the mouse, because this is actually camera relative. So I can zoom out like that and then still zoom in further because it's camera relative. So if I were to do this and then zoom in, you can then use your WAS and D to move it around. So I can get just the right angle I want. So maybe something like that would be kind of cool. With Elixir in the middle with a nice backdrop. But I don't like things to be completely straight like that, so I tend to do this a lot. Now what you can do is you can use the arrows here and it will jump to specific locations. So if for example you want to make a phone wallpaper, you can put it to 90 degrees, which I've done quite a few times. In fact, I'll put an example on screen now of one of the ones that I've done. But if you don't want to do something like that and you want a more general, say, Twitter or Instagram picture, I wouldn't go for 90 degrees. In fact, I wouldn't even use the arrows to turn it around, because it will only go in 45-degree angles. What I would do is actually just drag it yourself, because then you can get different angles yourself. You can kind of control it a bit better. And I quite like the offset angle like that, for example, which is no longer centralized in my opinion, so I'm going to move her there. And that now looks a lot better. But the lighting's not right. Would you agree? So what I do then is I will zoom out, because you have to be really careful when doing the lighting. So go to your lighting, and basically you have 3 lighting options, but they will put it exactly as it says there where the camera is. So if you do that when your camera is right in front of your character, it's like putting a light right here, and it will look honestly awful. It will be horrible. So always zoom out and see whether or not you can get it right that way. So in fact, let me show you. If I were to zoom right in and place a light here, look how bright that is. It's incredibly washed out, and it doesn't look nice. But if I were to zoom right the way back out, do it there, you see it's a lot darker, a lot kind of subtler, but it works a lot nicer. So now if I move that, you get some nice shadows on there. It just works a lot better, you know. I'm just thinking readjusting the angle a bit, so about there is good. Now I'm only going to use one lighting for this, but you get 3. You can place 3 different lights, which is really useful when you're in like in a really dark location. Here it's bright daytime, and I'm outside, so it doesn't really matter. One thing I don't ever use is character lighting, because yeah, you can see there, it does brighten your character a lot, but I think it kind of looks unnatural, so I never use it. Another thing you can do, and I've done it a few times, is if you go into emotes, so you'll have your list of all the different emotes you can do, but you can do expressions. So if I wanted to, I could get her to redo this animation with just a smile, for example, and her face will stay as a smile. But I'm not going to do that, I can't like it like this, but it gives you an option of changing the actual expression you have whilst doing an attack, or a pose, or of any kind, basically. So yeah, now that that's there, that actually itself is quite a nice Gpose. It looks pretty. I quite like it. In case you're wondering how I'm turning this off and on, scroll lock on a computer will allow you to do this. I don't actually know the keyboard, the keybind for controller, but I think it might be X potentially on an Xbox controller. I'm not sure what it is on a PlayStation controller because I haven't tried it on PS5. So another thing you can do, which is also worth playing around, is you can have depth of field, so you can see how it's blurring the background, and you actually get to control how much of the field is blurred. Of course, with where I am, see, it doesn't do a lot other than really, it's just, I think I'm just too far away from anything for it to even show. Then you also get manual focus, so you can change exactly where the focal point is. I very rarely play around with that, but that actually looks quite nice. So I might actually have that for this shot. It's more of a will I won't I sort of thing. I don't use it very regularly, but if it works nicely, then I'll use it. So yeah, that itself is quite a nice Gpose. What I could do is in the lighting, you can actually play around with the different colours as well. I'm not going to though, because I'm going to do something a little different. There is a tool called G-Shade, which I have. So I am now going to activate G-Shade. I have it set to one of the presets from the Fashionista. I don't know how this is going to look, but we'll see how it is and then go from there. Now immediately you'll see that that's changed the colouring and the lighting quite a lot. And it looks honestly quite a lot better. But with G-Shade, there's a whole bunch of different options you can do. So if I were to move this over here, you can see up here I'm currently using First Light, which is a housing one from the Fashionista. If I were to flick things around to different ones, let's just move this a little further over. You can see how this changes just the way the Gpose looks considerably. So that one is really vibrant, and I quite actually like that one. But in that case, if I was going to use that, I might actually turn the lighting effect off that I did, because it's just really vibrant. This one is one of my favourites because obviously Elixir wears a lot of red, and it really makes her stand out and kind of dulls down every other colour, and that makes for a really interesting shot. So I probably will actually use that one for this, potentially. But I'm also very indecisive. As you can see, there's lots of different options you can do, all of which really make it look a lot better. Some of them are a bit too bright though. Some of them. So what I will do is I'm going to go back to Red Fox. I'm going to turn this off. And there you go. That right there is a really nice shot. But if I think realistically we might need it a little bit more close-up angle eventually. And don't be afraid, like once if you think it's not quite right at the moment, to keep tweaking. I've once spent 30 minutes on one Gpose, so yeah, take your time and think it through, and you'll be surprised what you can do. If I were to make this, change the colouring here, like look at that, you can really play with things here, but I think that looks the best. So I've tweaked it down. I've brought the lighting down, but with a bit more red than anything else. I could go full red and then it looks awful. I'm trying to decide between that or that, because she looks almost dead there. So I think having a little bit of colour in her skin there is better. And there you go. That would be my Gpose, my shot. So I would just take that, and that's that. That's it. So what I'll do now is I will disable that for a minute, and we'll try a couple of different ones. So let's go for, say, Dark Knight. Let's find an interesting looking skill that I can use. That could be a nice one. So let's go for Blackest Night. So I've used Blackest Night. We're going to go into Gpose. She is now going to repeat it. It's kept my manual focus, so I want to turn that off for a minute so I can actually see what's going on. Disable the battle effects. And there, you can make almost a Star... If you think the Star Wars poster, I can almost make a slightly demonic Star Wars shot. So, I'm going to do another one, so we'll go to the lighting sources. We'll put one there. And then we're going to turn this on. And that actually looks really cool, even with that. But I'm going to use a different... I'm going to see what else we can come up with. Something that really accentuates darkness of a dark night. Like that one is really nice there. See the difference in how that does there? But because of the angle, for this one I might actually make more of a sort of foam background one. So if I twist it like that, you can then play around the same way. And that looks kind of cool. I think so anyway. But say you wanted to put the logo of the game on. Because like, for example, on this one, you see I have the logo of the game on the bottom. So the way I do that is, I go into, where was sticker mode? Always forget where that is. And then I find it randomly every time. Where was it? There it is. Yeah, I always forget, because you've got different frames and stuff you can do, so, and different effects. So you've got petrification and things. But it's not going to show at the moment. You can basically put different effects on your character. Or you can make the attire wet, or not. And then you've got different frames you can throw up. Which can be quite fun. I rarely use them, but that's kind of cool, that one actually. Yeah, I rarely use them, in all honesty. But anyway, let's just put this back to none, and then sticker mode. And in sticker mode, you'll see all these different things here. One of the ones you can do is go to text, and then go to logos, for example. You get the black and the white versions of the logos. If I just take the white one, drop it on, click on it, I think. We then go to edit, and then change the angle, and then, for example, bring it down here. And suddenly you got a very nice, almost like a poster effect for the Gpose. So once that's there, you save it. Obviously, I've not positioned it nicely, but just explaining anyway. But then if you were then to take that as a Gpose, you could then, as I'll show right now, rotate it, and you have a cool looking poster. You will notice the wind still has an effect. You can't pause the wind, for example. At least I don't think you can. So you might have to time it right sometimes. But that's basically the secrets of Gpose. I hope you found that useful, at least. But yeah. In the end, Gpose itself is pretty simple. It takes a bit of practice, takes a bit of time, and each shot can, well, one shot could take you a minute, one could take you half an hour, like I said. But take your time and practice it, and you'll be fine, honestly. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it.